Episode 31, Managing Multi-Agency Coordination, Law Enforcement, Host Nation, and Venue Security. Welcome to Executive Protection Insights, the podcast where we break down real-world lessons, evolving threats, and the operational realities shaping modern executive protection. I'm Liam, your host. Today, I want you to imagine this. You're weeks into planning a high-visibility event. The venue is secured, your team is solid, the principal's schedule is locked, and then the real work begins. Local law enforcement has its own priorities. Venue security has its own procedures. The host nation, if you're operating internationally, has its own laws, politics, and sensitivities. Everyone is professional. Everyone is capable. Everyone believes they are prepared. And yet, everyone is operating from a different mental map of the same operation. This is where many protection missions succeed quietly or fail slowly. Because executive protection doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in ecosystems, layered, political, bureaucratic, and human. And the ability to coordinate across agencies is often the invisible line between seamless protection and cascading failure. In this episode, we're going to talk about managing multi-agency coordination with law enforcement, host nation authorities, and venue security. Why it's so difficult, where it breaks down, and how EP professionals can lead effectively without overstepping authority. Why multi-agency coordination is so difficult. Let's start with a truth that experienced professionals already know, but rarely say out loud. Most coordination failures don't come from incompetence. They come from misalignment. Every agency involved in a protection operation is operating under a different mandate. Law enforcement prioritizes public safety, legal authority, and jurisdictional boundaries. Venue security prioritizes access control, liability, and customer experience. Host nation authorities prioritize sovereignty, political optics, and national interests. Executive protection prioritizes one thing above all else: the safety of the principal. Those priorities overlap, but they are not the same. And when stress rises, when time compresses, when pressure builds, every organization defaults to what it knows best. That's not dysfunction. That's human nature. The problem is that misalignment doesn't announce itself during planning meetings. It reveals itself during moments of friction, delays, disagreements, or emergencies. Understanding each stakeholder's perspective. To manage coordination, EP professionals must first understand the world their partners operate in, not theoretically, but practically. Law enforcement. Law enforcement agencies operate within strict legal frameworks. Every action must be lawful, defensible, and accountable. They may support your operation, but they are not an extension of your team. Their response timelines, your use of force decisions, and deployment options are shaped by policy, politics, and public scrutiny. Understanding this helps EP teams frame requests realistically and respectfully. Venue security. Venue security lives in a different reality. Their mission is continuity, keeping the venue open, functional, and welcoming. They manage crowd flow, access control, and internal safety, often with limited staffing and high turnover. They may know the building intimately, every door, hallway, and service corridor, but they may not instinctively think in terms of targeted threats. Bridging that gap requires education, not criticism. Host nation authorities. When operating internationally, coordination becomes exponentially more complex. Language barriers, cultural norms, legal differences, political sensitivities. What feels like a standard EP request in one country may be unacceptable or illegal in another. Effective EP professionals don't just understand these differences. They respect them, anticipate them, and plan around them. Where coordination commonly breaks down. Despite best intentions, coordination failures tend to follow familiar patterns. Unclear authority. In a crisis, hesitation kills momentum. If it's unclear who has decision-making authority, or if agencies assume different chains of command, response slows. Information silos. Information is often compartmentalized. One agency holds intelligence it doesn't think is relevant. Another assumes someone else is monitoring a risk. By the time information is shared, the moment has passed. Different risk thresholds. What feels unacceptable to an EP team may feel routine to venue staff. What law enforcement views as manageable may feel alarming to a private detail. Without alignment, these differences create friction. Last-minute changes, late arrivals, schedule shifts, unplanned movements. These moments stress coordination systems and expose weaknesses in planning. The role of advanced work in multi-agency coordination. This is where advanced work becomes the foundation of success. Advanced work is not logistics, it is relationship building. Effective advanced teams engage stakeholders early. They ask questions that feel uncomfortable because unanswered questions become operational failures later. Advanced work should clearly define who controls which perimeter, who has enforcement authority, who handles medical response, who communicates with whom, how decisions are escalated. When these elements are documented, shared, and rehearsed, coordination becomes predictable, even under pressure. Communication, the backbone of coordination. Every coordination failure eventually becomes a communication failure. Multi-agency operations require communication that is clear, simple, redundant. Everyone must know who they report to, who they communicate with, what information must be shared immediately, what information flows through command. This is not about more radios or more chatter. It's about disciplined communication, concise, relevant, and timely. And when agencies use different systems, bridges must be built well in advance. Leadership without authority. One of the hardest realities in executive protection is this. EP professionals often carry responsibility without authority. You cannot command law enforcement. You cannot override host nation officials. You cannot dictate venue policy, but you can influence. Leadership in multi-agency environments comes from preparation, credibility, and consistency. It comes from being calm when others are reactive, clear when others are emotional, grounded when pressure escalates. The most effective EP leaders don't demand cooperation, they earn it. Adapting during live operations. No plan survives contact with reality. During live operations, coordination is tested by crowd surges, media pressure, weather shifts, protests, unexpected schedule changes. This is where relationships matter. If trust was built during advanced work, agencies adapt together. If not, they retreat into silos. Flexibility, humility, and constant communication are what keep alignment intact when conditions change. Lessons learned for executive protection teams. So what are the core lessons? Coordination is a skill. It must be trained, practiced, and refined, like any tactical discipline. Advanced work is non-negotiable. You cannot build trust during a crisis. Clarity beats control. Clear roles outperform rigid authority every time. Respect enables influence. How you engage partners determines how they respond when it matters most. Practical steps for EP teams. Here are actionable steps EP teams can implement immediately. Identify all stakeholders early. Conduct joint planning sessions. Define roles and authorities clearly. Establish communication protocols. Rehearse contingencies together. Conduct joint debriefs. Coordination improves when everyone feels informed, respected, and prepared. Closing thoughts. Executive protection today is not a solo discipline. It is collaborative, it is complex, and it is unforgiving when coordination fails. Managing multi-agency coordination is not about control, it's about alignment. When done well, it creates seamless protection that no single team could achieve alone. Platforms like Advanced Work help EP teams centralize planning, clarify roles, and maintain shared situational awareness across complex, multi-stakeholder operations. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Executive Protection Insights. If this conversation resonated, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your network. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay prepared, and remember, security is strongest when teams move as one.